Okie dokie. I think we're live. Let's see who's here to play today. Bears Without Ears, what's up? Too late for me this time. Sending a bear without ears. Hug to Angelo and everyone. All right. Sleep well. From Dahlia's Garden. Hello, Angelo. Hello, Dahlia's Garden. Hey, David and Elaine. Good to see you. Hey, Ashley. Hey, Nomi. Good to hear from you. From Belgium. Hey, Jennifer. What's up? What's up? Brontanimo. Greetings, non-seekers and present moment peeps. Let's see. Nomi says, Angelo, can you say something about the connection between no agency and the nervous system? No agency is becoming, let's see. I'm sorry, my little screen is acting goofy. Okay. No agency is becoming so obvious and freeing, yet experiencing deep existential fear, especially at night. I guess I would just challenge the idea that the fear is because of no agency. It could be, but understand that fear is the portal emotion to the magician archetype, right? So the magician archetype, the archetype of transformation, of change, of mystery, of the mysterious. So when fear is here, it's really just a marker that we're moving into new territory, different territory. And it's not necessarily contingent upon anything specific like the sense of agency or the sense of self or doership, though for a period of time you may see a relationship between them. As non-doership settles in, as the clarity becomes baseline, let's say that, then non-doership appears as freedom. It appears as ease and freedom rather than fearful or feeling like we're losing something or losing control, losing something. Yeah. Another way of saying it, of course, is that the underlying truth is that the way our mind imagines control automatically comes with the sense of being out of control. The illusion of control and the way the mind thinks about it, and the sense of being out of control, the way the mind puts it together, are really causally related. So the truth of non-doership is more of a natural truth that doesn't in and of itself trigger fear. What triggers fear is the loss of what we imagined in the first place, which is control. So hopefully that's helpful. Most importantly, it's an adjustment period and you will adjust. Things will settle. So let's see here. Down to Carrie. What's up? Greetings from Maine. Magical fall day. I'll bet it is. I've been up in the mountains the last few days here in Colorado, checking out the gold and yellow aspen trees, which is incredible this time of year. It's just incredible views that it creates. And I'm sure East Coast, very similar right now. So really cool. Yeah. All right. Where are we at here? Federico. It says, I know I'm supposed to feel my emotions as much as possible, but sometimes it's just so tiring. I don't want to do the whole thing and just keep on avoiding what to do in these situations. I mean, you can only take so much, right? So when I say you can only take so much, in the end, you can take all of it. Ultimately, you will be able to just rest in your experience. The sensations moving through, the emotions will not be a problem. But when we've had the habit of like escaping, I want to say escaping, but we're not really escaping. That's the funny thing. We've just convinced ourselves we're escaping through some kind of dissociation, which is distraction, daydreaming, thought, other types of literal distractions. Then it can feel like almost like too much, or it can feel exhausting to just be completely in direct experience ongoing. But with time, more and more you'll realize actually you can be, and it's totally fine. And it's actually more enjoyable by far than always negotiating with some kind of dissociative pattern and so forth. So just go easy on yourself. And if at times you need to distract, then that's okay to distract. But just keep coming back to the sensations, coming back to the feeling of just being here, being alive now. And ultimately that will be the most interesting to you. It'll be the most settled, clear perspective, so to speak. This is Ladika from Eureka. Hello, Angelo. I was in UK, but I was starstruck and couldn't find the courage to say hi in person. Interesting, I saw Michael Jordan in a restaurant once and had no trouble saying hi to him. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? Well, glad you were there in the UK. Maybe I'll see you next year. We're going to do it again next year. DVD Mon, hello from Virginia. Ashley, let's see, it says, so guys, an upside down from my story from Double Barrel. That assignment about identity, I got a 90 on it. Engaging with the Matrix now is a trip. Good job. Ladika says, self-inquiry only in the mental space, not writing. Does my love for my dog need to be torn apart either in writing or through thought before I can wake up? No, just keep loving that dog. Love doesn't go away. Attachment goes away. Objectifying beings goes away. But love doesn't go away. Nothing real will go away. This is from Kay Han. It says, hi from Canada. Hello. Zerkton, what's up? Is awakening the universal calling us to remember home because we are in the in the season finale of Humans on Earth Part 2. I don't know. That's a good one. I think he's partially joking, maybe. Bud says, hi from Alaska. Oh, hello. It's getting probably chilly up there by now, right? Depending on what part of Alaska you're in. Raven, what's up? Logging in to say hi and to support the channel. It is always wonderful to see you. Good to see you, or good to hear from you, Raven. Thank you. What's up, Dimitri? Deborah Drake from Milton Keynes, England. Hello. Born in Canada. Oh, cool. Right on, right on. Robin from Nevada. What's up? Hey, Pamela. Good to hear from you. Joni from Dallas. What's up? I think that's Gabrielle. Yeah. From Austria. Right on. Very cool. Representing it from Austria. Hey, Jeannie. Joas. Jenny. Jenny's from Merseyside, UK. Right on. We got some UK peeps. Thanks for staying up late in the UK. I try to mix these up so some people can catch them from Australia and so forth as well. Hey, Jenny. Hey, Kevin. Hey, Kate. Liverpool. Lots of UK. This is from Infinite Nothing. Hey. Mrs. J. Hiya. My little boy got his own account. It's Jahira. Oh, what's up? Good for you all. That's cool. All right. Hey, Bob from Alberta. All right. Big love. Mary Beth from Southern California. Right on. Still really nice weather there, I'm sure. It's still nice weather here in Colorado, actually. Today's cooler, but it's been sunny. This is Silvina from Argentina. What's up? Love it. Got some friends from Argentina. Hey, Nicole. Hey, Liz from Portland. A little sea lion. That's cute. Deborah Drake saying hi to Ashley. Autumn. You often say when we experience a shift and the equanimity that comes with it, We will remember the feeling of ease and peace. I don't remember ever feeling that as far as back as I go. It was tense. That's okay. Everybody's a little different. It's not uncommon that people will say, though, when things shift and there's this sense of kind of ease, they remember it from childhood, like early childhood. And I've heard this from people who were traumatized as children as well. But yeah, I mean, if there was like pervasive trauma, say, or something, or maybe your memory just doesn't quite go that far back, but most people kind of remember like when they're really young children, there's just this sense of like not worrying about anything, just being present and not worrying about anything. But you don't have to have that. Everybody's different. Brontanimo. So once we had the great remembering of our true nature, we seem to forget. Forget like what just happened last week, since your What to Expect Once You Awaken book has yet to surface. Yeah, my book has a lot of post-awakening stuff in it, actually, quite a bit. But what to expect once you've awakened. Yeah. Well, you can expect that you'll be out of the business of expecting things to be the way you think they should or will, because that will be disappointing. Because you'll not that they're already not the way you think they should be or will be, but that somehow the mind identified state overlooks it. Like it overlooks the fact that it doesn't really know. So when we wake up, we're just clearer on this. We're clearer on the fact that we really don't know how things are going to go. That we really are just walking into a mystery every moment. We're facing a mystery every moment, which is really cool. But yeah, it can be disappointing if you thought you were totally in charge and in control of everything. And maybe even if you didn't fully think you were in charge or in control, you believed you saw how things are, and you know how things are, and you know what to expect and what to predict. Again, conveniently overlooking when you don't do that, but it can take some adjustment to realize like it actually feels good to live in a mystery. It feels good to live in total mystery. That everything is deeply mysterious. It's fascinating. Everything is fascinating. Everything is alive, innocent, simple, mysterious. It's beautiful. Yeah. This is D888. Hi from the Netherlands. Hello. Brontanimo says, please share some information about how the memory system changes when continued dropping occurs. Just curious. Right now, memories don't stick as much. Yeah, that's what I find as well. It's not even, I don't think my memory got worse per se. It's just that the tendency to recall frequently goes way down. Like why? Like why? Like you're not living in thought anymore, so you're not living in the world of the past so much. So your mind doesn't have to recall those memories so frequently. So it can feel like your memory got worse sometimes, or it can feel like it's harder to remember things. But what I find is that when a memory is important, it appears. When I need that memory, it's there, strangely. So it's kind of a more efficient use of the system, maybe, is my experience. Mm-hmm. Jennifer says, the video today was amazing. I feel like I'm selfing more than ever, digging out all kinds of stuff regarding my identity that's been a big surprise. Intuition to explore why I needed to hide who I am. Yeah, it's true, right? Like after a shift, we kind of go back and look at all the ways we've made ourselves suffer. You have to, right? Because there's habits. There are habits in place. So if we don't see through those, we don't see, why did I believe what I believed about myself? Why did I believe I needed to attach to this or feel like I'm in control of that? Or why do I need to distract? If we don't look at all the whys of these things, then they tend to kind of keep happening. So a big part of post-awakening stuff is really just looking through everything and seeing things more closely, more clearly, more in more nuanced ways. Yeah. This one's from Greg. Hi from Lisbon. Hello, Greg. Ashley said the fall colors are amazing here in Saskatchewan too. Not a lot of leaves left on the trees now though. Yeah, it's starting to move south. Hey, Monique from Florida. Hi, Noreen. Says, hi, Angelo. My sister just passed suddenly a few days ago. Sorry to hear that. From pancreatic cancer. I can never unsee what I saw her go through. It was horrific. I always feel so grounded after intense emotions. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I'm glad she's resting now. DVD Mon. Fall colors haven't reached Virginia yet. Probably another couple weeks. Cool. Yeah, those lower altitudes. So like in Denver, like we're I guess a mile high and 40th degree of latitude or so. The leaves are changing on some trees and other trees are still totally green. But up in the mountains, all the aspens are bright yellow right now. So yeah. Ashley says, the times I most notice that something has changed is when situations arise which I used to ruminate on. Example, I had an exam go badly on Friday. My mind kept trying to go back to it, but kept failing to. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. It's like you just see there's no point in ruminating. And so the mind doesn't tend to make those kinds of motions so frequently anymore. Jenny says, Angelo, could you say something about how no agency relates to the sovereign archetype, which is about decisiveness, control, leadership? This archetype came up for me a lot in the retreat in August. Yeah, I would say the sovereign archetype, I don't know if I would say it's necessarily about control, but it is about leadership. It is about instilling trust in others. It is about I would say it's about responsibility, taking responsibility in life, confidence, trusting yourself, maturity, human maturity, humanness. It's about all of these things, and how no agency relates to the sovereign. No agency, again, it's one of those things like when it's clear, it's just completely obvious. And when it's completely obvious, you see that everything comes forth just the way it is. So an archetypal energy or an archetypal feature comes forth just the way it is. So confidence just comes forth, right? In the same way that fear can just come forth, or not necessarily fear, but like, let's say lack of confidence, self-doubt, that can just come forth, right? Everything just comes forth. There's no one behind experience directing experience. That's really what non-agency means. Non-agency means there's no agent. There's no one moving through time. There's no one directing experience, like choosing this experience versus that experience. A thought that says I chose, I choose, or I'm going to choose, it's always out of time. It's not actually in the moment of what seems like choosing, right? The choice is just made. If you look really closely, you'll see this. Like try to watch yourself actually make a choice in the immediate, right? Yeah. I don't know how you'd find that, because it'd be just one thought could say, I chose this, or I'm going to choose that. And then the next thought could say, I did choose this, or it could say, no, maybe I should choose that. But there's nothing moving between those thoughts. There's nothing picking one thought versus the other versus the other. More importantly, those thoughts can be there or not be there, and the choice is still going to get made. Movement occurs, action is taken, and so forth. There's no one behind it. There's just no one behind experience. That's essentially what non-agency is. So that can move in all kinds of different ways. All right. Jennifer, I was up in the mountains yesterday at AOL. Beautiful, but still mostly green. Going back in a few weeks to see the peak of color change. Yeah, it's got to be incredibly beautiful there. All right, she's talking about art of living in North Carolina. This is from Drew. Hi, Angelo. Do you still have thoughts? Is it worthwhile to pursue meditation in hopes of quieting thoughts, or are thoughts welcome here too? Yeah, thoughts occur here, but not very often. Like way less than they used to. But more importantly, there's no cohesive sense of a thinker moving through time, an agent. All of that used to, I assume, all of that used to be a result of thoughts being like very solid, and there's a sense of a thinker having a relationship with thoughts. So the mind can be very quiet now at times, and often it very much is, but it doesn't mean there's no thoughts ever. That's my experience. Is it worthwhile to pursue meditation in hopes of quieting thoughts? I wouldn't necessarily do that to try to quiet thoughts, because like, why, right? And I would just look more like at, is there tension in the system? Is there resistance in the system? Is there reactivity in the system? Those are the kind of things I would look at. Like if equanimity is not ongoing, then why, right? And so one way of working with that is to meditate in unbound consciousness, and that will continue to just calm. It does tend to calm the mind, but more importantly, it calms the reactivity and resistance to thoughts, not the thoughts themselves necessarily. And then the thoughts calm as a result of that. So yeah. I would address first what matters the most, right? Do you feel peace? Do you feel freedom ongoing? Is there any sense of separation from experience? Is there a sense of someone apart from everything or apart from anything? Like, I would kind of look at that first and then guide practice or inquiry based on that. Yeah. Noreen, I'm hoping as time goes on that it won't take a major life disturbance to feel no anxiety or depression. It's coming back now. Sucks. It doesn't take a major life disturbance to do shadow work. Definitely not. You can do it very intentionally. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, when you kind of get through that honeymoon period, it can be like, wow, there's a lot here. But it's just the mere fact that you're aware of it, the mere fact that you're just feeling it come and welcoming it into your experience. Again, you're not maybe doing it by choice, but welcoming it means you're meeting it. You're aware of it. That's a big part of the work, really, is not just constantly distracting yourself, and just being willing to feel. That's all you can do sometimes. But yeah, there are more directed ways of doing shadow work as well. Kate, yep, excited for next year. Yeah, yep. We'll do it up at Waldingham next year. I think it's about the same week, actually. Kevin, hey, Angelo, just wondering why I keep doing things that clearly hurt me. Like, why do I have hate and resentment in my heart? And why do I continue to resist when those things are clearly hurting me? Well, I can't answer that specifically for you, but what I can tell you is the first step is to accept what's there, right? So if you feel hatred in the moment, then really just feel it, right? Instead of making it wrong, just notice it's already here. I'm not saying to act out on hatred or something like that. I'm not talking about behavior. I'm saying the feeling, right? The experience. If you notice there's hatred and then all of a sudden the mind starts judging, like, oh my God, why am I feeling that? That's terrible. I shouldn't feel that because that's not giving, that's a lot of thought. But if you just feel it, like, oh yeah, I can feel that, it's a dark emotion, right? It's a kind of a heavy emotion. It's kind of an angry emotion. It's a hurt and angry emotion, but really feeling it. That's where I would guide you. That's what we do. Like if we're doing a deep shadow process, circling and that sort of thing, is really meet fully what appears. And it won't stay forever. Nothing stays forever because there will be something next. The next thing you might feel might be a lot of grief or who knows what. Yeah. You might inquire, like, where did this come from? What is the source of this? You might find a trauma, right? So this is shadow work. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah, when you get to the point of like, why do I do this? Why am I doing that? It's a little bit of like self-judgment now, right? Don't beat yourself up for feeling. Congratulate yourself for feeling because you're human. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And most of what we experience in terms of like shame and hate and guilt and resentment and all of it, we learned it. Someone taught us that. That's in some way or another, often through trauma. So you're not guilty of anything. It's just experience, but don't add beating yourself up to it. Just feel it. Yeah. Thanks for your message. This one's from Infinite Nothing. I keep having doubt about being a fraud, not really being awake. I know these are just thoughts, but they often stick and they repeat over and over again. Any suggestion for dealing with it? I would actually look not at the awake part of it. That's just what it's being blamed on right now. I would look at where does the feeling of just not being fully authentic come from with you? Like you could ask, where am I not fully authentic in life? Maybe that's it. Maybe it's like, am I fully authentic in my relationship with XYZ, whoever that is? Am I fully authentic in my art? Am I fully authentic at work? And if not, why? Do I have a belief that's hidden that I can't be fully authentic for some reason? Was I ever punished for being authentic, right? Something like that. I would kind of do a little inquiry around it. Yeah. The authenticity part specifically. Maybe you are authentic. Maybe it's a belief that's inaccurate. Yeah. But inquiry will lead you to the truth. This one's from Aaron Showers. Hi, Angelo. I find myself working on my business a lot these days because it's so much fun to do, but it seems like it's competing with the time I use for meditating in quietude. Not sure what to do. I mean, you don't really have a choice, right? You're going to do what you're going to do either way, truly. So, yeah. Sometimes if I really am not sure about something that seems important, I might ask, I feel into my gut, what does my gut say about this? Does my gut say I need to take action in this way or this way? Sometimes I'll do that. Like you could ask, trust your instinct, trust your gut, but do I need to spend a little more balanced time? Do I need to balance my time a little better with like meditation or something? I don't think there's any objective right answer to that though. It's just your answer. And there's going to be fluctuation, of course. There are going to be times when practical life takes more of your attention and time. There's going to be other times when you feel it like, oh yeah, I am working hard. I love to work hard. Business is going well, but something's off. Like I know I need to sit. I feel it. That'll happen too. Yeah. So trust your instinct. Okay. Liz says, Angelo, have you had weirdness with either of your names after all the shifts? Either of my names. I seriously don't identify with my last name at all anymore. And the first name also feels like fake, though still using it. I've heard this. It's been so long for me that I can't remember, but I probably did have that. It sounds accurate. I do know that many people feel this way. It's less common right like now than 20 years ago to change your name if you're a non-dual facilitator. But 20 years ago, it made sense and everybody did it, right? Gangaji and Adyashanti and stuff. It's a little, times are changed. Maybe it's a little pretentious maybe to do it now or something, or maybe not. But I think the reason they did it was exactly that. It just like, it felt so off. Like I'm not who I took myself to be. That's a shift, right? That's a shift in identity. I'm not who I thought I was. I'm not what I thought I was. It may make sense to actually change your name. So that probably is, again, there's an underlying feeling that I'm not who I thought I was. So yeah, I get it. This is from Frot to Tot. Hello from Rome. What's up? Hey, Corey. Just wanted to pop in and say hi to everyone while on break from Mukti's fall retreat. Oh, cool. Awesome. Kehan says, I feel like I have this mimic, I call it. It's all still and calm when I am not doing much. But when I move, my footsteps, whatever I am doing, I copy the sounds as I am doing, whatever triggers. Whatever triggers it, thought and pressure. I'm not sure about that. I copy the sounds as if I'm doing whatever triggers it, thought and pressure. Yeah, I'm not sure if by copy it, you mean copying the sound, like you make the sounds with your mouth. Not really sure exactly what you're doing there. I do know our brains and our nervous systems are pattern recognizers, and sometimes we notice patterns, repeat patterns, but I'm not sure precisely what you're saying there that you're doing. Yeah. This is Alex. Hi from Switzerland. Hello. Hey, Gareth from Australia. I will text you an animal. That's the name of somebody's username here. Hi from Miami. Hello. Hey, Max. What's up? Hey, Robin. Cat B Yoga. Hi, Angelo. Glad to be here. I struggle with a lot of confusion and overwhelm. Keep buying into doubt thoughts about if I want to wake up or not. Fear, not wanting to let go of me or things, what to do. Okay. I would say by now, if you're watching my stuff and you're, a member and doing that, you're kind of already bought into it. Meaning you got to be crazy to want to expose yourself to all this if you didn't want to wake up. That's the way I see it, because it can happen at any time, right? So if you really didn't want to wake up, you probably would not be doing this stuff. You wouldn't be on here commenting. You wouldn't be watching my videos and stuff like that. Or maybe, I'm sure you watch other people's videos. That's my sense. So most of that's just your mind messing with you. That's just those doubt thoughts, yeah? And you can meditate on that. You can sit, close your eyes, wait for the next thought to come. If it's a doubt, label it. Oh, that's a doubt. Cool. What else is here? Oh, there's another doubt. Okay, cool. What else is here? Just looking around, feeling around, staying in presence, staying present with whatever is, whatever's arising, whatever's appearing, whatever is experienced. Oh, another doubt. Cool. Yeah, just label them. Doubt, doubt, doubt. Then come as many as they want. Is it changing what you are? Is it changing who you are? Is it changing your experience of right now in any way at all? Right? There can be a belief that's like, oh my God, if there's a bunch of doubts, that means something about me. That's just another thought too, right? There's no, doesn't matter how many doubts are there. It doesn't change anything about your true nature at all. No matter how many doubts there are, it doesn't say anything about your true nature. It doesn't change your true nature. It doesn't obscure your true nature even, really. It can distract attention. That's about it. Yeah. Cool. Hey, Marianne. Good to hear from you. JB, when resting in I am, do you have any tips for then turning that inward onto itself or looking into what's looking? I don't think you need to look into what's looking, because how could you even do that, right? It's not really possible. I would say if you know how to rest in the sense of I am, either just rest fully in the sense of I am or add to it orienting to the next thought that's appearing. That way you don't sort of get caught up in thoughts because they sneak up on you, so to speak. That's just unbound consciousness meditation. Yeah. I look and then notice the looking and wonder who's looking. Yeah. That can end up in thought, that stuff. Like turning to look at the looking and all that. That's just my opinion, but how is the I am sense going to look at itself? It doesn't need to look at itself. It just is. That's the point of I am, right? The whole point of I am is it just is. It's self-validating without looking anywhere. It is the looking, right? It is the I. It is the am. It is the beingness. There's nowhere to look from there. There's nowhere to separate from that to look at itself. Okay? That's my experience. It says, then it's like I notice looking at the looking and wonder, yeah, exactly, all of it. Turtles all the way down. It just ends up in thought. This is from David and Elaine. Your video about not negating the conventional self after self-realization and Maggie's awakening to be human was so refreshing and illuminating. Loved the interview and double barrel with her too. Oh, good. Maggie's awesome. She also lives somewhere near y'all. Noreen says, what really helped me through my grief was to keep bringing myself back to the present. I kept replaying the horror over and over in my mind. All I had to do was come back to the present. It works. Yeah, totally. Yep. Here in the present, there's really not any problems. Really. Pamela says, I have no explicit childhood memories without detention, but I am starting to get in touch with pre-verbal memories of simply exploring sensations like swallowing and breathing, mysterious and marvelous. Yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly what I mean. You may or may not remember like an I am sense, like the sense of just pure being as such, but it's very much like what you're describing. It's just it's like there's intrinsic pleasure in sensing at some point. Yeah. And certainly toddlers know that, and, infants. Yeah. JB says, don't know why there's a Grover emoji, but I'm here for it. I know, right? Ashley says, my memory around certain things is worse. I had to make an assignment tracker for school to help with staying on track, and yet the important stuff with what I am training in sticks better. Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Time-based memories are not as good. I set reminders, and sometimes you have to set alarms and stuff because time can just really get away from you. So that tracking memory constantly by thinking stops happening. I'm sorry, tracking time through memory and constantly thinking stops happening because it's just so much effort. It just relaxes at some point. So yeah, the exactly what Ashley said, the tendency to lose track of time and stuff is maybe a little bit more. But that's what alarms are for. Brenda says, hi, Angelo. Let me see if there's another part of the comment. Nope. was just hi, Angelo. Okay. Hello. Marianne says, I've identified a belief and I'm finding it challenging to let go of it. It's a belief from when I was a 5-year-old. This belief intersects with my family of origin and I'm really struggling with this. Okay. Let's see. I'll get back to that one as soon as I see the rest of the comment here. Frank says, awesome, awesome, awesome. Erman, hello. Mrs. J, can you talk a little bit about redemptive love? Adia says, to see this moment through the eyes of the heart, that there's something about existence that's very difficult and yet we feel free enough to fully engage. Okay. Marianne's comment, let me see here. It says, I've identified this belief. I'm finding it challenging to let go of. It's a belief from when I was 5. This belief intersects with my family of origin, and yet I'm really struggling with this. Then the last part of her comment says, I'm really struggling with this belief as there's evidence of it everywhere. Help. Boy, I'm confused about what your belief is. This belief intersects with my family of origin, and I'm really struggling with this. Oh, wait, is this from above? Oh, I'm sorry, Marianne. I'm not seeing what your actual belief is you're talking about. Maybe it's farther down. Okay. Mrs. J, redemptive love. You know, I try not to like talk about other teachers' teachings too much because I want to be respectful and I don't want to interpret what they're actually saying. But I think I know what Adyashanti means by this. I get a gist of it. Let me see what the rest of your thing says. There's something about existence that is very difficult, yet we feel free enough to fully engage. Yeah. Redemptive love is, I mean, in a sense, it's shadow work, right? I'm using Adyashanti terminology, but it talks about the up and out and then the down and in. At some point, it's like you're I don't want to say forced, but you're strongly compelled to come back to feel everything, to feel what there is to be felt, to feel what has been avoided, overlooked, dodged, and so forth. The beauty of it is I love that he calls it redemptive love because the word love is there, meaning at first it won't feel like you love it. At first it can feel really painful, really uncomfortable, and that's the resistance. We have so much resistance to experience, to emotional experience. But over time, it becomes sweeter and sweeter. It's like a fruit. The more you eat it, the sweeter it gets, kind of thing. It's just like that. So at some point, it gets very enjoyable to feel anything, and because why not, right? Similar to what Pamela and I were talking about with a baby sensing. There's something intrinsically enjoyable about sensing. Same thing. There's something intrinsically enjoyable about feeling, even if it's an emotion, right? In one sense, what makes it an emotion is that doesn't appear to be just a feeling or just a sensation. It's a sensation plus a label or a narrative or a context. That's what makes it uncomfortable, is the resistance to the context, not the sensation. So the sensation's fine. In and of itself, no problem. And once the resistance settles, then is love, right? That's the love part. So it takes experience. It takes patience, maybe. It takes some work, takes some shadow work, but ultimately it is love. Call it self-love, call it love for whatever appears, whatever arises. Yeah. But in the end, at some point, you'll realize, wow, I can actually love even that discomfort. I can even love the resistance. That's redemptive love. At least my version of it. I could be totally wrong as far as what Adyashanti meant by it, though, so that's why I usually don't talk too much about other people's teachings. Noreen says, there is no suffering when I'm present. Oh, did I miss anything? No. There's no suffering when I am present. What a gift. I've got a long way to go, but I'm on my way. Yeah. Oh, Mrs. J says, without a center here, me, the whole house of cards can fall. Yeah? Sure. Without a center, there's no filtering. Or, well, yeah. with the loss of a center is the beginning of the end of form. And without the illusion of form and distance and separation and perception and so forth, there's no filtering. And when there's no filtering, you will feel everything that's been suppressed or repressed or resisted. So in a way, it's like more intense shadow work, and it comes fast, but it's for a much shorter time. And then things settle out nicely. So there you go. Liz says, identity is the wrong word, but hopefully you'll know what I mean. Basically, it's all weird. And as a substitute teacher, I'm always giving out my name every day. I see. Yeah. Yeah, I totally get it. Totally get it. Especially as a substitute teacher, right? Yeah. It's a temporary version of what you aren't anyway. Nomi says, it's so interesting when the identity of ambition starts falling away. You can just serve with no agenda. Love it more and more. Yeah, totally. That's exactly it. Serve with no agenda. Mm-hmm. And you'll get rewards. Like they're going to come. Like there's going to be relative rewards and there's going to be relative challenges. But ultimately you can just serve without agenda and just trust that things are fine. And also, again, that love of just being in the moment, being alive, becomes more and more clear. Deborah, in a recent video, someone asked about matter and how to understand what it is in reality. I think you said that perceiving matter is just another thought. Could you say a bit more? Well, this is the thing with the non-dual realization specifically. If you want to talk about it in terms of fetters, Kevin Chanelek's model of fetters, it's seventh fetter. With that dropping, you see that matter, mass, things are just thought. Form is just a thought. Mm-hmm. Before that falls, I'm not sure I can answer to your satisfaction or to anyone's satisfaction because it would be totally conceptual. This isn't conceptual. It's very literal, very direct, very obvious. Yeah. So if you're curious how to dissolve that fetter, dissolve that illusion, then I have a playlist. It's called Non-Duality. Or you can also look at a playlist called Fetter 6 and 7. Yeah. But I can't explain it in words. I can't explain it in concepts. Even if I did, which I do sometimes, I try to point in words sometimes. But inevitably, when that actual shift occurs for someone, they always go, I was not prepared for this. I heard you say it 100 times, never thought it was this. They're always surprised. So, yeah, pretty wild, right? Kind of gives you like some mystery to orient toward though, right? Something juicy, something interesting. It is interesting. It is mysterious. It is juicy. And I can feel it's not that it can, it is intimate beyond what the mind can construct. It's intimate beyond what the mind thinks of in terms of intimacy or connection or touch or contact. It's just beyond that. It's more clear than that. So that's probably the one true thing I can say about it, is it's intimate. But what does that mean? Well, until you directly experience it, who knows what it means, right? Yeah. Okay. Kay Han says, down in the southwest corner, Ashley, small town. Oh, this is about where they're from. DVD Mon says, so thoughts just become meaningless background noise, neither good nor bad. A, just neutral? Yes. Yep. That's right. Sometimes people will go, do you still have dreams, Angelo? And I say, sometimes, but they're very vague and they just feel like consciousness. They just feel like thoughts. It's like they're no more real than the thoughts that happen when I'm awake. They're just these like vague, funny formed thoughts when they occur. Rarely is there any kind of narrative or anything that feels real or solid or anything like that anymore. So the waking thoughts and dreaming thoughts, they're just thoughts, just movements of consciousness. Yeah. It's like wind moving a windsock or something. Brantanimo says, thanks for the explanation. Memory does show up when needed, but when people ask me about something that happened, I draw a blank. Yeah, I know what you mean by that. It's like you can't necessarily recall memory just because someone wants you to. It's like a parlor trick. I think most importantly, it's like you're not tracking some kind of fake timeline by constantly remembering. Like to construct a timeline and keep it constructed takes a lot of mental energy, and there's no need to do that when you see it's not real. So you stop doing it, right? The mind just stops quote unquote constantly remembering. Nothing's being remembered. It's just constructing something that looks like a memory of the past over and over and over to keep it feeling like I'm moving through time. Agency. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Scrolling here. Okay. Down to Charla. Hi, Angelo. What is your view on Makyo? Dreamlike images and sounds during silent sitting. Is it just a thought to ignore? Yes. Just like Zen teachers say it. Makyo kind of means illusions or hallucinations. I've had all kinds of weird stuff happen and go through my mind. And yeah, they can even be things that seem like aren't thoughts, like loud sounds can suddenly happen, or you might feel a jolt through your body, or a voice, or really strange memories, or sexual images, or bizarre thoughts, or all kinds of weird stuff happens. So the more concentrated meditation is and the more prolonged it is, the more chance of these like Makyo. Mm-hmm. I like how Zen treats that. Instead of getting all enticed by it, they just say, if it's not awakening, it's Makyo, which is pretty true. Deborah says, excited to hear there'll be another UK retreat next year. Yeah, me too. Really loved it. Love seeing my UK friends, and it's a good venue for a retreat. It's a really nice theater. Alex says, I have a question. What is my body if there is no self? Well, the question is there a body? That's what we were talking about up here, is the fetter of form and formlessness. Seeing that that's not even there. So that there's no, in a sense, the self is more real than the body because at least you can believe in the self. You can only believe in the body through an image of the self, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense. But you see why the fetter of form falls before the subtle self-sense falls. You can see clearly why that happens. Because without the sense of self in the most basic way, there's no way to believe in anything. Form, a world, time, space, doership, agency, purpose, meaning, all that's just gone. Yeah? So there's the answer to the question. I feel deeply rooted in my body. Yeah. You might look closely at what you mean by that. You probably feel more deeply rooted in sensations. And actually, no. You feel more deeply rooted in what seems like sensation. If you look closely enough, it's going to be thought. It's going to be a thought of a body map. Like it's an image of a body. Not the actual body. Close your eyes, you'll still have it, right? If you close your eyes, do you still have the sense that you're associated with the body? And the answer is yes. Well, you're not looking at the body, and yet you still, imagine it. So really look at what the sense of being a body actually is, and you'll see it's totally made out of thought. The processing is quick, and it underpins all other thought and processing, so it doesn't seem like it's just thought, but when you really get down to it, you will find that it is. Hopefully that's helpful. But you're talking about a deep stage realization there, so conceptually you're not really going to grasp it, I don't think. Not accurately. You could grasp it conceptually, but what's the point, right? So, and I don't think it'll be an accurate thing. So just understand what you're talking about is deep realization. Seventh and eighth fetter, or non-dual, formless, non-dual, and no self-realization. So that's kind of tricky early on. This is from Infinite Nothing. Been stuttering since childhood. Got lots of trauma sounding it, maybe surrounding it. These days, I got a paralyzing fear when I went to speak in a group. The fear isn't really mental. It's felt very heavily in the body. Yeah, Let's see. Chest, stomach, and throat. How can I work to overcome it? Well, I can give you a practical like therapy answer, and that would be exposure. Exposure therapy is what works for this kind of stuff. It's uncomfortable. It has to be a stepwise thing and so forth. But yeah, and the real question I would ask is, why do you want to overcome it? I'm not saying you shouldn't, but why? Like, what is it you really want? Is it that you want to speak well in public without stuttering, or do you want to just speak however you speak in public, even if you do stutter, and not feel the fear? Or do you want to accomplish something beyond that's neither of those things, but you think that that's going to get you there? I don't know. Or do you just not want to feel fear anymore? I'm not sure what your specific goal is, but I would be clear on that, right? Like, what is it you're really trying to accomplish with this? Yeah. And there are going to be things that trigger fear. Fear is a physiologic response. And the fact that it's there is in and of itself okay. It's not a problem. Yeah. And then there are the bizarre answers that I've heard from people, like they do a certain thing and then a fear that they had around something else just is gone and it's not there anymore, right? Performance anxiety or something. A certain kind of shadow process or a journey or something. You do it and then all of a sudden it's not there. I've heard people say this with like iboga. I did iboga and all of a sudden I noticed there was a background anxiety that I had my whole life. I didn't even know it and it's gone. So things like that. So sometimes there are serendipitous effects from other types of work. That's why I say, like, really look at what you want to do. What do you want to accomplish? What do you want to experience? And is it reasonable? Like to say, I never want to feel fear again. I'm not sure if I wouldn't make that a goal, right? Because you're going to be disappointed because fear is a physiologic experience, right? Increased heart rate, increased respiratory rate, shaking, that's fear. It's associated with a release of epinephrine in the body, right? So you're not going to be able to say that's never coming back. But do you want to be able to speak in public? Then maybe that's the goal, So be clear on the goal first of all, and that'll be a little easier to see what the steps are, I think. All right. Noreen said, I had a definite shift a few months ago with walking meditation. It changed everything regarding what is really real. What really is real, if that makes sense. It does. Without that, I don't know how I would handle the grief as well. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. It was your Free Your Mind video. It changed my life. So grateful. Free your mind. Oh, good. I like to hear that. Believe it or not, even though I've heard it a lot, I do like to hear when a certain video or a resource or whatever causes that shift. Because I know what it felt like when it happened to me. Changed my life for sure. Probably saved my life. And I'll always be grateful. So if I can carry that forward, I'm going to do it. I'll figure it out a way. So I'm glad to hear that. Yeah. Autumn says, I love when you tell us we don't have a choice. It's so freeing. It is freeing not to have a choice, right? Paradox, but it's totally true. What's not freeing is to believe you have choice. That's not freeing at all. That's misery. Because you have to keep having cognitive dissonance and ignoring cognitive dissonance that shows you actually don't have control the way you think you do. You have to selectively only remember the times when it seemed like you did. Causes so much cognitive dissonance and it requires so much brain processing, and it's such an illusion that it's not comfortable. Anytime you feel in control, you're just setting yourself up to feel out of control. Jennifer, thank you, Angelo. I feel freedom and fear simultaneously. Reminds me of a Stevie Nicks song called Gypsy. So I'm back to the velvet underground, back to the floor, to a room with some lace and paper flowers. I can't remember. There's a part though where she says freedom and fear, something like that they're like connected. I came through a fear barrier in July retreat. The fear was seen as just sensation. I can't repeat it. Yeah, exactly. It's intense sensation, but it's sensation. What makes it seemingly unmanageable is believing the thoughts about it and not seeing the difference between believing the thoughts and just continuing to feel it. Thank you, Jennifer. Ashley says, these moments of just needing to sit is so relatable to me. I will naturally sit now when I need to. The body just knows. I totally agree. Noreen says, during the shift, there was no in or out, me or them, colors so vibrant, like a full silence. I came home, took a shower, and felt everything. Never felt water hit my skin like that before. Beautiful. You're not the first person that's told me that, actually, about taking a shower. I knew somebody who the shift happened right before, but she didn't know. Everything went so quiet, she didn't even reflect on anything. She didn't know it till she took a shower, and she felt the water. She felt her hand moving through her hair, and she said, I'd never actually felt my hand moving through my hair before. That was when she knew. Oh, Kehan says, copy in my head, sorry. Yeah, that's just in my book, how I talk about the reflective nature of thought. The thought is the reflective capacity of mind. That's what I mean, is the thought will reflect things. So like as you walk, your thought is reflecting it, repeating it. It doesn't always do it just that way, but that's one thing it can do for sure, mimicking, right? It's okay. They're just thoughts. You don't need to struggle against it or anything. Because again, the presence of thoughts is not the issue. It's the struggling against thoughts that becomes quicksand real quick. Deborah says, this is so helpful, Angelo. Thanks for doing this work and all you do. You're welcome. Ricardo. Hey, Angelo. I love listening to you. I love your advice on this. Sometimes I'm not entirely sure if I am projecting or if I'm truly reading and intuiting accurately. Like if something feels off about someone, but I can't put my finger on it. How do I know it's not just me, in particular with teachers? Okay, first of all, I don't know if you've read my book, but I have a whole chapter on teachers and pitfalls. There are pitfalls on the part of the teacher and pitfalls on the part of the student. And I think if you haven't read this, read it, because I think it will be helpful, because I really took time to write that and feel into it and observe a lot and see what comes into play, because there are things on both sides for sure, right? You may be seeing some bad pattern of behavior, or you may just have mistrust of a teacher because of your own history with something else or someone else, right? Either one of those can happen, or a combination. So it helps to have like a nuanced understanding of the behavior patterns on both ends. The other thing I would ask that's really helpful is ask yourself in a given situation, what am I trying to accomplish here, right? So when you say teacher, I don't know if that means you're in college or whatever it is, but if you're in a certain situation, if you ask yourself, what do I need to accomplish or what do I want to accomplish here? That may really simplify it. You may not even have to figure it out. You may just have to do what you need to do to get the grade and get out of that class, and you'll be done with that teacher, and that's it, right? So, or maybe you have an ongoing relationship with a teacher. Maybe it's a spiritual teacher, and there are more nuances to it. But asking yourself, what am I trying to get here? What am I expecting the teacher to do for me? What am I expecting myself to do, right? And then when you're clear on that, then you can maybe see if is the teacher doing something that's like slightly manipulative, or are they just teaching? Or are you doing something slightly manipulative, or are you just learning, right? So I think it's helpful to inquire in those ways. Yeah. Good question. Gareth, I've heard you mention chakras before. To be honest, when people say that, I tend to switch off as it sounds a bit woo-woo. Are there actually things called chakras? What are they, and how do you know? I wouldn't say there are things called chakras. I wouldn't say like there any more than there's a thing called a body. But there are apparently energy centers that seem to have certain functions. So when the heart opens, that's a very, very obvious thing. It's just obvious, like it's powerful. And it feels like it's in here, like in the chest space. When the sacral chakra opens, it's very obvious. It's powerful sexual energy, Very, very, very almost physical powerful. It affects you and it affects people around you. So when these things happen, they seem very tangible, obvious, and so forth. So I would use the term chakra because it's the way to communicate what I'm talking about if I need to talk about it. I may not need to talk about it, but it doesn't mean that there's some specific thing in there somewhere, or it's an exact location, or that all the associations with it are the way others who talk about chakras describe them. I just use it because it's a convenient way to talk, but I don't like mentally imagine that there are these chakras inside the body or anything. Also, all the other chakras don't seem as meaningful to me, at least in the way people talk about them, other than maybe the root chakra, the sacral chakra, the heart chakra. Yeah. You could talk about the crown chakra, but to me, it's like there's so much energy up in the head. And after awakening, you could say that opens. But ultimately, what needs to happen then is the energy to come back down into the body, which does happen. For me, I had headaches for years after awakening because there was so much energy moving up into the head all day long, just from bad habits. And I don't mean bad habits. I mean, it was a habitual process of putting energy in the head to think all day long. There's so much thought going on. And so it takes a little while for that to reverse, is what I've seen, and not just myself and others. So there's some value to talking about those spaces, I guess. And I could call them chakras or not. But I'm kind of with you. If I don't experience something directly, I don't necessarily judge it as woo-woo. I just don't talk about it. I don't use the terminology, and I don't know what other people mean. It may be woo-woo. They may just be imagining things, or it may be a real experience. I have no idea. So I try not to use terminology until I've had the experience of it. So I kind of feel you there. Yeah. This one's from Tal King. It says, Kehan, echo-like after image. I have that. And when I notice it, it drives me crazy. Yeah. Agreeing with that, echoing in the mind. Ricardo says, oh, sorry, that's the end of the question I answered before. Mrs. J here says, I heard Josh tell the story once that someone was calling him by the wrong name for an entire retreat, and he didn't correct them because it really didn't matter. He's like, yeah, Jason's fine. Yeah, I kind of agree. What does it matter? I don't have an association with the name Angelo. Doesn't feel special. It doesn't feel shameful. It's just a word. Yeah, it doesn't feel personal at all. Jennifer says, I still tense up when people call me Jen. Oh. Okie dokie. Lisa says, hello, my dear friend. Always great to see you, Angelo. Hi, Lisa. Good to hear from you, too. All right. Thomas. Hi, Angelo from Sebastopol, California. I've been working for many years with sexual identity and sexual addiction with men. I've investigated this through inquiry. There's probably more to that. Let me get down here and read it. And therapy, but it has not released. I realize it's thought-based, but the thoughts are reoccurring. I think that's the end of what he was saying. Okay. I was scrolling down to see if there was more to the comment. Okay. Let me get back up where I was. Sexual addiction with men. It's a deeply rooted one, right? For sure. Typically. The things I would look into are how it ties into the need for validation. It may seem really unrelated, but I find this a lot in both men and women. But the sexual drive is often partially, if not largely, co-opted by the seeking of validation, and even other things like seeking of just affection, just straight affection, not even from a particular sex, just affection from another human being. So even though those seem unrelated, I would look into that, because if you don't see that, then it's like you can be chasing a bit of a red herring. So that's one thing. I mean, it's a big topic, and I don't know if I can go like fully into that right now, but yeah. What else did you say here? And you're right that it is, when you say it's just a thought, well, it's a thought, but it's also a sensation, right? Sexual energy is a sensorial experience for sure. Like I was talking about before, when the sacral chakra opens up, like it's a very powerful experience. It may have thoughts, it may not have thoughts. It's easy to fantasize in that space, of course, but more importantly, it's a very visceral experience. It's a direct experience of energy. So it has a lot of intense sensation to it. So yes, it is thought, or there's thought components to it, but it's also sensation. So explore the sensation as well. And really, I think the final thing to see about it that will disentangle it from identity, at least in my experience, is seeing that there's nothing you have to do with the sensation. There's nothing you need to do about the sensations. And they can be big, right? They can be intense sensations. They can be powerful sensations. They can come out of nowhere. They can be triggered by other people, right? And yet you don't actually have to do anything about those sensations. That's where this ultimately leads to, in my experience. Corey says, I've found IFS really useful for working with shadow aspects, but I'm starting to wonder if it can also perpetuate identification, almost like the parts keep reconfiguring instead of dissolving. I'd love to hear your perspective on whether IFS can subtly reinforce narrative selfing. Totally, of course it can. Many things can. I don't think it's a bad modality. I think it's a good modality. And if it works for you, great. If it works for anyone, great. I will say something interesting about this. I didn't know, it's very popular now, it's in vogue, but I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, I was talking to a friend and we kind of came up with our own version of it. We were just talking about it in these terms, and it was very obvious that both myself and her noticed these internal aspects that clearly are. There's a parent kind of voice, there's a child kind of voice, and we could see those relational aspects, and neither one of us had heard of this stuff at all. IFS, internal family systems. And I purposely went out and looked. I was like, there's got to be some kind of therapy based on this. And then I found it. I was like, oh, there is and it was newer back then, I guess. But now it's very in vogue. So my point with this is just to say that it works because it reflects what's going on in your psyche. Of course, you internalize the dynamics that you had when you were forming your primary bond, and when you were having your primary bond threatened by siblings and all these things. Like all those things were forming externally, and then they shape your psyche. Of course, they shape the way you talk to yourself internally and all of that. So it makes sense. Of course, it works to see it that way because that's the way it is, or that's the way a lot of our psyche is formed. But it is our psyche, right? It is identification that you're navigating with all of this. So I do think, and I have seen examples where I think people can use it, take it a little too far almost. Yeah, where it starts to just reify identity. Yeah, so again, like I've said several times here today, ask yourself, what is it you're trying to accomplish in the moment, like in the instance of using anything? What am I trying to do here, right? Are if you've identified the parts and you feel, equanimity or something like that ongoing, what are you really trying to accomplish anymore? Or maybe you feel contraction, or maybe you feel some resistance pattern or something. So find out what you're really trying to do, and that may help guide when to let something go and when to continue to use it, right? Many things along this path are like this. Like you use the raft to get across the river, get to the other side of the river, set the raft down. This is true of so many things, including self-inquiry. So, yeah, good question. Let's see. Klaus. You said before that there are some huge benefits to being neurodivergent on this path. Could you say a bit more about this? Yeah, when I work with somebody who is neurodivergent, I may suggest an inquiry. First of all, they tend to be very precise about their description of what they're experiencing. So somebody who's neurodivergent may say, and I mean probably most specifically someone on the autism spectrum more than like ADHD. in my experience, but in what I'm talking about. So they may say something like, here's what I experience when I introspect, or here's what I experience with an emotion, or here's what I experience with a sensation. And it's often very precise and very clear to me. So it's easy when someone can communicate clearly what's going on inside of them. It's easy for me to like feel into what's going on with them and guide some kind of suggestion or an inquiry or something. That's part of it. The other part of it is if I give somebody, I've had this experience in the past many times where somebody who's neurodivergent, I give them like I suggest an inquiry based on a conversation we have. If I talk to them in a week, they've like taken that inquiry and applied it all week long. Like they tend to, from what I've seen, be precise and like fastidious, I guess, with practices and stuff. And that's really helpful in this endeavor. Whereas sometimes somebody who's neurotypical or whatever, I might suggest something and they're like, oh, great idea. And I talk to them a week later and they're off on a completely different tangent, totally didn't remember anything we talked about. And, it's just like whatever. So I think there are some theories out there that people who are neurodivergent or on the autism spectrum may actually not have a fully formed sense of self to begin with. And maybe that helps. Maybe that's why it's easier for me to work with them sometimes. Yeah. There's the challenging, the little bit more challenging side of it, I think, is that sometimes specifically emotions are a little tricky for people with autism spectrum disorders because they can see things so precisely. They can zoom in so clearly to like sensations and stuff that they kind of almost zoom past emotions. So I've had that a little bit sometimes with a bit of a challenge in identifying certain emotions. Whereas neurotypical people are a little better at it, maybe at least at identifying emotions. These are just broad brushstrokes though. And I don't have like, vast experience, but I've worked with a good number of people who are neurodivergent. Okay. JB says, might constantly orienting to I am and the watching for the next thought lead to awakening, or should I supplement with other practices? That can definitely lead to awakening for sure. Supplement with other practices. I would just say do one thing at a time though. Don't like get mixed up while you're doing something like, should I be doing this? Should I be doing that? If you sit down to meditate for 30 minutes, just do one approach. Simpler the better. This is all simple. You're not trying to figure anything out, so don't make it complicated. It's really about going significantly beyond what you're taking yourself to be in any given moment until an insight dawns, right? That's why the one-pointed approach is so beautiful, because it literally just gets rid of everything except that one point. Yeah. Eric Ireland, there's a video on my channel of him talking about this. His awakening, what he did was he sat on his porch and he just would do one round of sitting where he would do self-inquiry. Then he would do one round of natural meditation. And he just repeated over and over, and that worked for him. Marianne says, she's talking to Zirkton or Zoe. Noreen, I'm going to the retreat in New York in November. I'm a little excited but 99.9% terrified. I feel that I have to face this. So scared. You're going to do great. You were just telling me you had a shift already. You're going to love it. You'll love being there. Yeah. You're going to do great. Fear's fear, and that's okay that it's there, but yeah, you're going to be fine. Drew says, any retreats planned in California? No, not at this time. Let's see. Joni says, I'm scared to show my frustration because most people take it way more personally than I do. I forget about my own frustration in 5 minutes, but others will hold on. Yeah. Yeah. I guess it's like, I guess my question would be, do you have to show your frustration, or can you just feel it without demonstrating it in some way as well? But yeah, I just want to say, like, I totally empathize with, I mean, I've been aware of it my whole life that I guess I don't really hold it as like a broad judgment now, but I did for many years, that most people really are just not emotionally healthy. and there are definitely people who are emotionally healthy, but there are so many that aren't. And so for most of my life, I didn't really trust that people could handle me expressing honestly about emotion, however that was, because people can't handle their own emotions, right? Does that make sense? So I get you. It's a challenge, right? Being fully authentic around others can be challenging because they may have a bad reaction to it, not because there's anything wrong with what you expressed, but just because they're not okay emoting themselves or feeling their own emotions or what you reflect in them, or their own self-consciousness may come up because you're not self-conscious. All kinds of weird stuff comes up with people. So I get it totally. But I would also say, do you have to express it, or can you feel it without expressing it? Let's say. I don't know the answer to that, but something to explore. Ashley said to Noreen, I was absolutely terrified the first time I attended a retreat. It's so worth it, though. I hope you have the best time. Ashley's so sweet. Yeah, Noreen, you'll have a good time. You'll love it. You might be scared to go, but then you're not going to leave. And then you're going to be excited to go back. I still love retreat. I love being on retreat. Joni says, I'm careful not to say anything hurtful. That's good. But I can still make others uncomfortable. I grew up always hiding and repressing it. Yeah. Yeah, I feel you. Kevin says, what do you recommend when confronted with a feeling of horror? Earlier this year, during a mushroom trip, I felt a feeling of absolute horror. Should I treat it like a fear barrier? I wouldn't treat it like anything specific. I would just feel it fully. Really put your attention in your body. Feel where your body's feeling it. It might be the whole body feeling it, but a lot of times it'll be in the chest and neck. But really feel the sensations and make sure you're with that. And then notice any thoughts sneaking in. And what you'll usually find is at that stage of things, with an emotion that intense, even the most unexciting thoughts, like subtle thoughts. Sorry, my computer's doing funny things over here. Even the most like kind of unexciting, typically benign thoughts, like how long is this going to last? Or this is really intense. Or when is this going to go away? Or I can't handle this. Like simple thoughts like that can be really intensifying. Does that make sense? So when the emotional experience is very intense, identifying with even simple, seemingly mundane thoughts that aren't that big of a deal usually can feel way more intense. However, just identifying those thoughts and recognizing that they're there can really settle things quite a bit too. So that's what I would say is feel the feeling, feel the experience, find it in your body, make sure you're with your body, make sure you're staying with that experience, and then just saying, is there any thought here? The thought may be like, oh God, what if this lasts forever? What if I spend the rest of my life like this? Sure, that's going to magnify it a lot. But even simple thoughts like, how long is this going to last? Like when's this going to end? They can be surprisingly amplifying actually in those spaces. So that's my advice. Let's see. Kevin says, what do you recommend when confronted with a feeling of horror? Oh, that was the one I just read. Alex says, if the initial shift doesn't happen despite dedicated self-inquiry and the self-illusion persists, is it often due to not trying hard enough or perhaps not even trying too hard? I don't think it's trying too hard or not trying hard enough. I think it's not thinking outside the box. Not getting creative enough, finding what really you need to shift. And that could be working with somebody who can help you get leverage on yourself, someone who's gone through it themselves. A non-dual facilitator can be helpful. Doing something like going on retreat or even doing a home retreat, but doing something to get leverage on yourself. That's what I usually think is there's usually a hidden kind of fear that's more of a psychological fear that's like, I want to wake up, but I want to be in control. That's what it's a competing agenda. That's what it really usually is. It's not that you tried too hard or not try hard enough. It's not that you can't do it. It's not that you don't have the capacity. It's that you actually have a competing agenda. That's what I usually think it is like, yeah, I want to wake up, but if I'm really honest, I don't want to lose this. I don't want to lose that. I want it to go the way I want it to go. I want to wake up, but I want it to look like so-and-so. I want to look like Rupert Spira when I wake up or something. I mean, I've actually had people say things like that to me. So ferreting out the underlying beliefs is really helpful. Good question. Holly, what's up? Says, I feel others, especially partners, repressed stuff, anger, big stress. It seems a big part of what I struggle with in partnership. I wish it didn't land, but until they process it, I feel it as very, very uncomfortable. I totally get it. There is an answer to this. It depends on degree, in my experience. Well, okay, it depends on a couple things. One is, what makes it unmanageable is if they project it onto you. If they project it onto you, like literally project it onto you, or somehow require you to help them be in complicity with avoiding it, that's really, really hard. And that's not on you. You can't fix that. That's you got to feel into it and go, do I want to spend that much time around this person? On the other hand, and I think that's what this is at least based on the question, the face of the question, sometimes it's just an empathic thing. You can just feel it. You can feel that they're burying something. Why do you feel it? Because you buried stuff all your life and then you learn not to do it. But that hasn't come to full maturity yet. When that comes to full maturity, you won't care. They can bury it all they want. What I think it is a hidden belief that because they're burying it, it triggers a fear in you that you're going to bury it now too. Like it's almost like you're going to backslide if you're around that person or something along those lines. Like you probably start, when you notice your own repressing of emotions, you probably almost had an aversion response to yourself doing it, right? It's like, God, I don't want to do that. So now you're applying it to them. But the truth is, it doesn't matter what they do, right? That's not going to affect your well-being unless you believe it is. If you believe it's going to affect your well-being, then it definitely is going to affect your well-being. But if you just say, they have a right to have whatever experience they want. I don't need to dig an emotion out of them. I don't need them to be any way other than they are. So it's a practice of unconditional love then, if that makes sense. Kind of just love that person because they are who they are. They can repress whatever they want to repress. It's fine, And you can also say, what am I repressing? Maybe you're still repressing something that's just, maybe it's a different emotion, right? Maybe they repress something that you don't, and you look at it and that makes you point your finger and go, look, but maybe they don't repress something that you do. I don't know if that's true. So I always would use these things as a opportunity for inquiry. Again, unless there's like a real enmeshment and they're like projecting it onto you or being manipulative to get you into complicity or something and that demanding that you help them keep it repressed through like unsavory behavior patterns or something. That's a different story. So yeah, that's about the best I can answer here based on that question there. So Aaron says, sometimes I have a pervasive, recurring, annoying thoughts, especially about certain people that seem to be rooted in concern. I feel called to do work with one facilitator about doing shadow work. You know what? It's a really good cure for this. I mean, this is like a cure. Is if something bothers you about somebody else, this can actually answer Holly's question to some degree too. And I kind of alluded to it, but yeah, if you look at somebody and you just automatically judge them, like I don't like that about that person, and you know that's happening. The reason this works and it's curative is because you don't want to see it about yourself. So if every time that happens and you feel annoyed by somebody or you feel judging, just go, what is it about me that they remind me of, right? What is it about me that person reminds me of? And you won't want to see it. Your mind will be like, nope, nothing. Just keep asking. Force yourself to find it, and you'll find something. Maybe a subtler version of it, but you're going to find something. And if you do that every single time, then without too much time passing, you're gonna notice you stop having those judgment thoughts because your nervous system won't want to go through that process again because it's uncomfortable. But it also teaches you something. So that's a good approach with that kind of thing. I've done it in the past. Dimitri says to Kevin, I have the same reaction to magic mushrooms 5 years ago. I had no idea I could experience that much terror. Yeah. Right? Deborah says, thanks for the answer about matter. Being interested in the mysteriousness is juicy for me. I'll inquire into that. It is. This is from Phil. Hey, Phil, what's up? JB says, Makyo. I've had almost like audio hallucinations that don't come across as regular thoughts during meditation. Not just me then. Cool. Yeah, me too. Amadeus, I love you all. What's up, Amadeus? Thank you. Brontanimo says, 2 hours ago, I reviewed a dinner plan with the fam. I have no recollection of what we are making anymore. That kind of stuff happens to me a lot now. Jennifer says, you know I love Stevie Nicks. To the gypsy that remains, her face says, freedom with a little fear. There you go. I have no fear. I have only love. Beautiful. Ikram, you seem like you are hanging out with your friends today. I wonder what it feels like for you when you come on these live Q&As. Yeah, it feels like I'm hanging out with my friends, I think. Feels pretty chill. Ashley says, this is how every live or Zoom with my fam feels to me. I'm just spending this moment with my friends. Yeah, totally. Autumn says, so much of this process is giving yourself grace and letting go of all the regret and shame. Recognition of not having control naturally leads to grace and forgiveness of others. It is so freeing. Totally agree. Totally agree. This one's from I Will Text You an Animal. How funny is it that I ask questions in my head to Angelo all day, and then when it's showtime, there's no urge to ask anything, just sitting back and enjoying. Our minds are funny. This is from Max. Self-worth gets uplifted when praised and shattered when criticized. Would that be residue from the self, or does it seem more fetter work is needed? That is definitely self-residue. In the eighth Oxfording picture, it says, millions of birds could strew flowers in my path and such praise would be meaningless. That's exactly how it feels. For me, at least. If someone criticizes me, I don't feel anger. I just feel like, okay. If somebody compliments me, I don't feel, I actually don't feel any like elation. I just feel like, okay. You know, I like to hear the gratitude in comments about videos and things like that, specifically because people tell me that it helps them to have shifts, so I like to hear that because it reminds me to do what I do. It reminds me of the value of doing this. It reminds me of that importance of that shift, and that this actually does something. So I like the reminders, but there's not a personal experience to it anymore, which is really interesting. It's very freeing. Mm-hmm. Noreen says, just an FYI about the shift. I was in such a state of depression and anxiety that I was considering going to the hospital. I was begging for death. Then the shift. Woo! Yeah, so anyone out there listening, if you're in a bad way, these shifts often happen in the most surprising moments. This is from Creepy Bettenberg. Hi, Angelo. Just want to say thank you for everything. Your book and videos have helped me. Are helping me during this unbinding process. I appreciate you. Much love from the UK. You're welcome. Lots of UK folks tonight. Pretty cool. Noreen, not nearly the same feeling anymore, but it's running in the background at times and it is available. Not nearly the same intensity. Yeah, pretty typical. Get the honeymoon period, things settle out. Aaron says, I had a Kundalini experience while stating chants in a group setting, and it was extremely potent. I felt all the energy of the body for about 1 hour with no thoughts in the mind. I was extremely present while feeling all the energy, and there were tingling sensations all throughout my body. I can feel that, and I've never experienced that before, but I knew that it was totally present. Beautiful. Tal King says, talk more about headaches after initial awakening. It seemed like a doership toward my body is strong. Melting butter exercise becomes effortful. And I remember how it happened naturally at first. Yeah. Headaches for probably 5, 7, 8 years after awakening for me. I didn't really know what it was. I didn't associate it with awakening, but now it's obvious. Yeah. The melting butter thing does work too, by the way. I didn't know it. I had never heard of it because I wasn't trying to fix anything. The great blue heron is a red herring. That's funny. Tal King says, and it's painful to remember that and know that remembering is a thought, and I can't stop that momentum, and headache is worse. Yeah, I would do the butter, the golden butter. Like, it's really an energy thing. It's not so much a trying to fight thoughts thing, unless you want to, the one thing you can do with thought is meditate with unbound consciousness. Meditate with a wide open aperture of consciousness and thought, and the mind will calm. But as far as the energy just being up in the head, it's like, yeah, the butter, the golden butter, or any kind of somatic practice of any kind, Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga, maybe TRE, laying on the ground, massage, stretching, intuitive movement, intuitive dance, things like that may be really helpful. Find the one that you like. Autumn says, experiencing intimacy with someone else gives a sense of being wanted, being desired, being chosen, important, all the validations. This is where it has played a huge part in my life, less about sex. Pamela. Oh, sorry. Oh, she's talking to Corey. I feel like I graduated from IFS. It's still a tool in the toolbox, but I'm not keeping track of dozens of parts anymore. If they need anything, they show up here now. That's it. Yeah. Okay. Tyson. Hello, everyone. 2 nights ago, I had a dream, and I was frustrated and angry, then suddenly awoke in the middle of these sensations. It was a rug pull. So liberating when I awoke. I laughed out loud. That's beautiful. Aaron says, I had a strange experience the other day where somebody that I never met looked familiar to me, but he said the same thing to me. I don't think I would met him before, but he did look familiar. Very strange. Interesting. Tyson, the dream made me inquire into awareness, how it was there on both sides, and what I take as real. Any thoughts? That's a great way to look at it, right? Like, what is it that's there before you wake up and still there now? What is your original face before your parents were born? What is it that never changes? There's only one place you can find that. You're not going to find it in thoughts. What is the origin here, now? What is the origin of you here, now? What is the origin of you? What is the origin of your experience right now of being awake, hearing this, perceiving? What is the origin of your sense of being in the most simple, basic way that it is experienced by you right now? So basic that it's, to even say it's experienced by you doesn't make sense. It's just you. So what is your origin? Like, that'll take you right into it right now. No thoughts. Joe B says, hi, Angelo. Could you talk a bit more about ADHD? I've gotten diagnosed, but medication has been a mixed bag to the point where I question if it's even real or not. I'm not an expert on ADHD, honestly. I do know very awake people who say they have ADHD. I don't know. Especially in adults, I really just don't know. Yeah, I don't feel qualified really because it's just not my thing. When I was in family medicine, I was a family medicine resident. I was trained in like recognizing and testing people for ADHD that were children. But the ones I remember that clearly had it was very obvious just watching them visually. So as an adult, a lot of it's subjective. Like, how do you feel, your concentration, your ability to take care of tasks and so forth, and then how is it on medication and stuff. So yeah, I don't really know other than that, but I do know you can wake up for sure. Maybe a different process somehow. It may feel a little different. You may inquire in different ways. Meditation may be different, but I know you can because I know people with ADHD who are very much awake. So yeah. Okay, I'm just going to look and see if there's anyone I didn't answer because I'm a little bit over time here. I guess I got to the bottom pretty much. I'm reading Zircon's final comment there about bumping into somebody's intense energy. All right, everybody. I appreciate you. Thank you, everyone, so much for your support. Thank you for your questions, participation. It's always fun to hang out with my friends. And yeah, very cool. And we'll see you for Double Barrel here in a couple of weeks. Much love. Enjoy the fall. Enjoy the autumn. Enjoy the leaves changing everywhere you are. See some people. See a few people in November. See some people in December. See some people in February. So, yeah, much love to you all. Yeah, I appreciate you all. Again, thanks for your vulnerability and questions and comments and sharing with us all. Thank you. See you later, Ashley. Bye, Jennifer. See you, Frank. Bye, Marianne. Bye, Phil. David and Elaine. See ya. See you, Zoe. Bye, Joe. Bye, DVD Mon. Bye, Carrie. Bye, Jenfish Jones. See you later, Tatiana. Bye, Unknown Drunk. Bye, Deborah.